So, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Blake McGee. I'm a VR counselor with the State of Michigan and Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. Our program is Michigan Rehabilitation Services. So thank you so very much for joining us this evening to gain some more insight and information on who we are as an organization and what services we provide to our high school students and transition students. Just some housekeeping rules. If you are not aware, we do have an ASL interpreters present during this informational meeting, as well as closed captions as well, and it's available and it's communicated through the chat. If you do have some questions, please provide them in the chat, and I will do my best to from time to time check in on the chat to address some questions. But for the most part, I want to go through this content and provide you as much information as possible. And as mentioned, tonight's session will be recorded. And if you are interested in receiving this PowerPoint, please email me your contact information and we can follow up. All right, so let's begin. Once again, thank you so very much to all the families and community partners from our in Wayne County and Monroe County, from numerous school districts, for participating in this evening. Of course, the title is focusing on the future for our students. So I hope that you find this informational session informative and enlightening. Can you see my screen? Okay, I'm going to assume you can see my screen.
Yep, we can see your screen.
All right, excellent. Thank you. So every organization has a mission and vision. So the mission when it comes to Michigan Rehabilitation Services, our goal is to work with individuals with disabilities to prepare our customers for employment, or maintain or obtain employment. That is the core focus of our mission. And when it comes to working with high school students, there is a criteria. If you are a high school student, in order to receive services from MRS, you have to have all of the following. You have to either have a 504 plan or an individualized education plan. And on the IEP or 504 plan, it needs to communicate the disability. You have to be between the ages of 14 to 26, have an interest in learning more about the world of work and learning more about careers. Of course, you must currently be enrolled in a secondary or post-secondary school. So in that instance, be enrolled in high school or transitional program. And you must also have an interest in learning more about competitive integrative employment, as well as learning and gaining more information in the following areas of post-secondary skills of college, trade school, or vocational program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a video clip that gives a great quick shot on what services we provide under what is called PREEDS. Okay, Jose said, you said you're the only person that's not able to see the slides. Okay, well, we'll work on that. Currently what I'm about to do is share my screen and show a YouTube clip, okay?
Thank you for your interest in Michigan Rehabilitation Services. MRS focuses on assisting individuals with disabilities as they prepare to enter the workforce and explore career options as they transition to employment. As you think about your future and life after high school, you may be wondering about the next steps you might take. This is an exciting time for you. MRS has services that can help you prepare for your chosen path as you move into this next phase of your life. Our services can help you think about job training, getting a job, gaining independence, and becoming self-sufficient. Your journey is unique, and we can help you design a plan to achieve success that matches your goals. Our supports are available as early as the age of 14 to help you discover, research, and plan a path to a job or career. There are two pathways to access services. The first being exploratory in nature, called pre-employment transition services, and the second being comprehensive and individualized vocational rehabilitation services. There are 5 key areas MRS focuses on with students and youth. The first is job exploration counseling, where we will help you explore jobs based on your interests and skills. Second is work-based learning experiences, where we can help you gain experience in actual work settings. Third is work readiness training, where we will make sure you build the skills needed to be successful at work. Fourth is counseling in self-advocacy, where we teach you to advocate for yourself and promote your unique qualities. Fifth is counseling in post-secondary opportunities. In this area, we will help you discover school and training opportunities once you have completed your high school education. When you work with us at Michigan Rehabilitation Services, you may explore one or more of these services. Plus, we can help you in many other ways, all based on your personal and professional goals. It's easy to get started. Talk with a teacher, school staff member, or your local Michigan Rehabilitation Services counselor to start thinking about the ways we can help you. You will need a parent or legal guardian to help you with the paperwork, but we can help walk you through that too. We can't wait to work with you. If you'd like to contact your local Michigan Rehabilitation Services counselor, visit michigan.gov/MRS or call 517-241-5324 or toll free at 1-800-605-6722.
All right. All right. Good evening, audience. Are you still with me?
Yep, and we can see your screen.
All right. Excellent. I'm glad that you can see my screen. All right. So why Michigan Rehabilitation Services? I think the video clip did an excellent job on explaining why. So, but just diving into it a little bit deeper, our fearless leader, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, has a goal for Michigan residents. And by 2026, she would like to have at least 60% of Michigan residents with credentials. So in order to reach that goal, we need to start that plan early. And that's having conversations with our high school students and planning for our future in regards to vocational guidance, supports, and services. So a little bit about me as an MRS counselor. So I can be considered an MRS counselor, or it kind of switches back and forth to VR. VR meaning vocational rehabilitation. But regardless, whether you prefer to call me an MRS counselor or a VR counselor, when it comes specifically in working with high school students, I have the ability to participate in IEP meetings and being an advocate, also developing what is individualized plan of employment, which is catering towards those 5 pillars. And we'll talk more about those 5 pillars later in this presentation. And then also, as you see on this slide, I do a few other things, but I also team up with our community partners at our local schools to help and guide our students through the process and figuring out what, that cliche question that is never ending. What do you want to do when you grow up, or what are your plans after high school? So these are a few things that I do when it comes to high school students. So as mentioned in the video clip, there are 2 ways to begin receiving vocational services. So the reason why we're here tonight is because we're having a conversation about pre-ET services, and pre-ET services is pre-employment transition services. So in regards to this step 1, pre-ET services encompasses PTA as well as pre-ET. So PTA, we identify that as prior to the application, and that's primarily working with 9th grade and 10th grade students, as well as certificate of completion students in the 11th and 12th grade. When it comes to pre-ETs, those are the students that are on the diploma track. Now, regardless of the fact, we do recognize that we are in general working with special education students, but it is split off with 9th graders, 10th graders, as well as certificate of completion students, 11th and 12th grade under PTA, which means they're solely focusing on the vocational training component. While the 11th and 12th graders, there are some other additional resources that may be available. Not just the 5 pillars, but a program called STEM. And STEM, we'll talk about a little bit more. It's called STEM Up, and we'll talk a little bit more about that program in later slide. And then there's step 2. And step 2 is vocational rehabilitation services. So when it comes to vocational rehabilitation services, we're either working on one or two things. So we're working on an employment goal or an educational goal, if that is determined by a medical entity, meaning a psychologist may communicate, or we may contact a psychologist and say, hey, we like for this student to participate in a psychological evaluation to determine if MRS can support the educational goal. Now, there are some instances that where we have medical professionals that may communicate that, hey, it wouldn't be a good fit. College may not be a good fit, but here are some other options. Maybe the workforce, or maybe attending a vocational program such as Michigan Career Technical Institute, better known as MCTI. And once again, this is something else that we'll talk a little bit later in our slides. So when going back to having a conversation about these case types, so we got the PTA, or prior to the application, as I mentioned, that is focusing solely with 9th graders, 10th graders, as well as students on the certificate of completion track that are in the 11th and 12th grade. Then we have pre-ETs being the 11th and 12th graders that are on the diploma track. So there is some paperwork that is a little bit different for PTA students than it is for pre-ETs. So when it comes to PTA students, there are consent forms that need to be completed by the student as well as the guardian. So in the event, if there are legal guardians, no matter if there are legal court binding documents that communicates that you are a legal guardian, you are required to sign all that paperwork along with the student or our customer, even if they are 18, because that's a legal binding contract, right? So we just want to make sure that we're following the rules. And of course, students under the age of 18, you need a signature from an adult. And if you are 18 and there is no legal guardianship court documents, you can sign on your own without a parent. Okay, so just kind of wanted to communicate that. When it comes in regards to the paperwork that is needed for pre-ETs, there's an application, there are consent forms, and there's some other corresponding documents included in that paperwork as well, which is characteristics of plan, intake, and those are some of the documents. But here you see it, we have the 5 pillars, and they were mentioned in the video clip earlier in the presentation. And as mentioned, we are focusing on job exploration, work-based learning experience, counseling on post-secondary options, workplace readiness training, which we also call soft skills training, self-advocacy, and then we have the VR case type. So I know the question may be, and if you haven't thought about it, I'm just going to present it to the audience. What happens once my child graduates? Well, that's a good question. And to put it simply is, you can actually continue to receive services if you desire. Now, we do have some families, once they participate in pre-ETs, they do close their case. And then we have some families that, hey, no, I want to continue these services, and they can. So, but by that time, we should have an idea if we're focusing on either working, which is an employment goal, or education, gaining that credential. Because as I mentioned, Governor Gretchen Whitmer wants us to get those credentials. And what I like to tell, or what we all like to tell our students, it takes skills to pay the bills. So if there is medical documentation that supports the customer further in their education, we want to make sure that we put our students in that position. And if not, there are, of course, other options. And we'll discuss those other options during this presentation. So here on this slide, it gives a good example of and description of each pillar. So we have job exploration, and job exploration is simply, and not so simple at times, helping our students. So let's say we have a student and we're beginning to work with them, and we ask them, hey, what are some job industries you might be interested in working in? And the average answer is, well, I don't know. No need to fear. We have resources that we use, such as Career Scope, to help customers through that process. And that is a self-paced assessment where it assesses a student's interest levels, as well as if they have the aptitude and skill to participate in those work industries. And then there's also some innovative technology that is made available, and we're currently going through the process to see if we can utilize some of that virtual reality technology, where it provides a virtual reality simulation on different job industries. So we can kind of help narrow down for our customers, maybe 2 or 3 job industries that they might want to participate in. Next, we have the work-based learning experience. And this is the, I would say, the rock star out of the 5 pillars, because what work-based learning experience provides, it provides the hands-on experience, whether it be a non-paid or non-paid or paid experience, and which typically the way things we typically flow is that we have our students participate in some vocational training and throughout the school year, and at the end of the school year and beginning of the summer, they have an opportunity to participate in a paid summer work-based learning experience. It could be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or 10 weeks. It just depends on what business vendor we're working with to work with our customer, your child, and the student. Next is counseling on post-secondary options. So this is an ongoing process. Of course, at the beginning of your freshman year, your ideas and maturity are going to be much different from 9th grade to 12th grade. So it's just an ongoing process and exploring, going, what that popular question, that never-ending question, what do you want to do after high school? So that's really just going to be the ringing theme until you, the student, or you, the family, along with us, the school and Michigan Rehabilitation Services, come together to present a variety of different options for our students to choose from. Okay. Then we have workplace readiness training, also known as soft skills, and these are core skills that you will need regardless of what work industry you will participate in. And then we have self-advocacy / including peer mentoring, and peer mentoring can be students participating in student organizations in school, as well as some opportunities from and options of participating in activities that we may have available outside of school. So case in point, last week, one of my phenomenal team members who happens to be a pre-eds counselor put on a college tour, and it was at Henry Ford College, and we had a great time, and they fed us too. So I enjoyed it, and the students that participated as well enjoyed it. So exploring your future. These are some questions that we're going to ask, whether it does not matter if it's a pre-eds counselor or an MRS counselor. These are things that we're charged with the task of exploring and asking our students and families, what are your job and career interests? And of course, if you don't know, we have some tools that we can use, as I previously mentioned, and then also just providing that training that is available for you. But also, we have some resource tools to research those job markets, the labor market, to determine, hey, in 4 years, is 4 to 10 years, is this an industry that is trending up, or is this an industry that is dying out? And if it's an industry that's dying out, I'm not in the business to tell you what to do, but I am in the business of saying, hey, these are your options. What do you want to do as the customer? Because granted, you may be very passionate and you may be the innovation that that particular job industry may need to trend back up. So that's why, I'm not in the business of saying no, but this is what options we have, and this is what policy says I can do for you. But at the end of the day, the choice is still yours. Informed choice. So here on this slide are just a few examples of work-based learning experiences. That includes internships. It could be for some students that this is their first job experience. And another great thing about work-based learning experience is if a customer does well, even if it's a non-paid work experience, it can put them in the position to create a job position for them, or they can use that person or their supervisor or the owner of the business as a business reference. So you just never know what door it may open based upon your performance. And then another good thing too with our business partners or our business vendors is that they know the population of customers that we serve. Everybody has different functional capacities, different challenges, and there, it comes some patience and some grace with that. So if need be, a customer may need a job coach to remind them about their tasks and duties. We at MRS, we can pay for that service. It comes as no charge for you, the customer. So if you are, if I'm presenting anything that you are interested in this evening, please remember, you don't have to pay for it. And here on this slide, and correction, when I say you don't have to pay for it, when it comes to under pre-eds, you do not have to pay for it. There are some times and some occasions that there may be opportunity or experiences or times that you may have to pay for it, but that's more so out of the VR side. But the pre-ed side, typically, I'm gonna say 90% of the time, we cover costs and expenses. So here on this slide, let's begin to have that conversation about post-secondary options, where we have from the academic setting, community college and universities. We are ongoingly having that conversation, as well as the schools are having those conversations and providing options for community colleges and universities to present who they are and to recruit our students. Also, we have Michigan Career Technical Institute. We'll talk about career or MCTI shortly. Then there is the trade school options, other trade school options, and registered apprenticeships that are available to our students, because we work with, Michigan Works, or also known as American Job Center, who has numerous apprenticeships available for the public, as well as potentially our customers as well. And then there's on-the-job training and certificate programs and transition programs. So those on-the-job training opportunities can actually lead to apprenticeships. And then certificate programs are putting customers in a position to have credentials. And as I mentioned, skills pay the bills, because our leader, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, wants 60% of our residents to have credentials. So here is a slide on Michigan Career Technical Institute. So before we dive into it, I'm going to play a short clip that will, I think, do a decent job on explaining what MCTI is. Audience, are you still with me? Still there? Okay, just checking in, just
Yep.
just checking the temperature out there. Okay. All right. All right, just bear with me.
So MCTI is a great trade school for people with disabilities, learning and physical, to get an opportunity to get an education and get into the workforce and bettering themselves. I'm in pharmacy, and we generalize in the retail aspect of pharmacy technicians.
I am in office automation. It's the IT trade of the school.
This is not high school. This is college.
What I feel like that's special around this school is it's more hands-on.
I'm going to be going in the hospital setting, so I will be working one-on-one, hopefully with some patients.
We have a service center that we fix computers people bring in. We go from anything that's software related, hardware related, antivirus. Outside of class, we have different activities. We have a swimming pool.
We have an archery range, we have a bowling alley, we have a lake. The buses go into town to go on movie runs, go to the mall, get people out of the school to get out in the real world and have some fun. It's a very open-minded school. There's not a whole lot of judging here because everybody has their own disability.
Basically, every student helps each other out.
There are people here to help you step by step until you are done with school, and then even after school, there is someone here that will keep in contact with you, make sure you are working, what things they can do to help you get that job or the pay that you deserve. They do what it takes to make you successful.
Join Planet Fitness for just $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime. Deal ends Friday, October 13th.
Okay. All right, we're transitioning back to the PowerPoint. All right, so let's have a conversation about MCTI. All right, so what it did not mention about MCTI. MCTI is located in Plainview, Michigan, which is between Battle Creek, Michigan, and Kalamazoo, which means it's west of Michigan. It does provide a dormitory type experience. So there are 13 programs to choose from there. And there is an application process. A student must have at least a 70 IQ, participate in a current psychological evaluation, have a current physical, have a current TB, a current negative reading on a TB skin test, and then also participate in the assessment process of MCTI. So that is also what I want to make mention. We do have success stories, for customers who have gone on to MCTI, gained their credentials, and that are working. There are some cases, of course, where some students went off to MCTI and it just didn't work out, but they are in positions where they are still working, just not in the desired initial industry that they prefer. There are MRS counselors on site, on campus, as well as just general counselors for mental health services as needed. There are opportunities for work to be made up, and they give you grace, but not so much grace where it comes with due dates. They'll give you only so much grace to make up your work, and then they got to move right along. And if you don't, as students, you are responsible. If you do not do the work that you're supposed to do in a timely fashion, it could put you in a position where you are disenrolled from the school. So make sure you take advantage of the resources and the support that you have available to you if you are fortunate to participate in the MCTI. All right, next, here we have STEM Up. STEM Up means science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine. So I made mention early in the presentation, there are some programs that are available specifically for our pre-eds customers in the 11th and 12th grade that are on the diploma track, as well as for our customers that are currently enrolled in college. STEM Up is a resource program that has a curriculum that, believe it or not only covers the area of post-secondary options, right, and training, but also it encompasses the work readiness training, self-advocacy, and just a few other pillars. And they have about 30 sessions of curriculum that are customized. And the reason it's customized is because they have so much curriculum for customers that may advance through each session, as well as they kind of narrow it down and slow it up for customers where it takes a little bit longer to go through the curriculum. But all in all, the end game here is to provide you with the additional support of peer mentoring and guidance, and put you in a position so you can gain a credential in one of these industries of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, or medicine. So great program. And this is a program that is specifically working with our customers that are on the diploma track or are in college and have a desire to major in one of these industries. So next is workplace readiness training. So when it comes to workplace readiness training, I may mention earlier that it does not matter what industry that you participate in, that all of these skills are essential, okay? When it comes to employability skills, which is like the first basis of it, is if you're saying to me that you want a job, it's so very important that we have to develop our students' interviewing skills. Now, how you interact with your family and how you interact with your friends are all different. And the same goes for when you are applying for a position, you need to learn how to communicate and effectively to put yourself in a position to be offered a job, right? So that, that includes body language, nonverbal cues, and that includes dressing the part, making sure that you are groomed adequately, that you smell appropriate, that your clothes are iron pressed, and that you are looking like that. I want to own this company. I want to run this company, and you should. And that's the nonverbal communication that you should display. We want to teach our students that dressing for success is important, and then also just the component of interviewing, having the confidence, and when questions are asked, how to respond. Next is the resume development. The resume itself can get our customers in the door. Like, when, companies are looking for candidates to employ, the first step is they're looking if they have the work experience. And then there are some businesses that are willing to work with our customers that have no work experience, and they want to help them develop their work experience. So as I mentioned, with our work-based learning experience, it's so important that you do your very best, because it can be a work experience added to your resume, as well as a professional reference that can be used in the future or throughout your life. And then also the skill of job seeking skills, which is a process. And if you're doing job searching on your own, it can be tedious, and it can come with its challenges. But working with us, we can help you to develop that skill, whether you're working with a counselor or working with one of our business vendors to develop and enhance that skill. Next is the social and interpersonal skills, and that includes communication, teamwork, and decision-making. As I mentioned, communication is so very important. And once again, we do recognize that all of our customers have different challenges. There are going to be some customers that we already recognize are going to be are social butterflies, but they may not be quote unquote the strongest when it comes to math and reading. And then we recognize that we have some customers that are very quote unquote book smart, but when it comes to interacting with others, there's some challenges and some delays. So we kind of want to level that playing field and work on those skills. And then teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Take tonight's presentation, for example. It's not just the Blake Show. It's working with members from the American Sign Language team, working with closed caption or the CART team, and working with Tyler, the creator, to make sure everything is functioning and working properly. So this is a team experience. And then also the blessing of whoever created this PowerPoint, most likely Tyler, but shout out to Tyler, you know who you are. And then also next is the focusing on the job readiness skills of independent living skills, which includes time management, using transportation, and money management. So it's very important that when it comes to time management, that our customers recognize and are conscious of why it's important to be on work on time, because if you're on work on time, that's great. And if you keep missing the time parameter that you're supposed to be there, that can lead to a write-up and a loss of a job. And then also learning how to get to and from work, because in some cases, there are some families that are fortunate that can get their child to and from work. And while others, they have to use public transportation, whether not just only the bus system, but also maybe Uber or also Lyft. But then also there are some resources that are available, such as ADA Smart Bus. And if you are eligible for that service, then they can provide transportation to and from these work experiences or to and from school. And then, of course, money management. Money management is important, is because remember when I said skills pay the bills? Well, hey, everything costs, and if you if you get a job, it puts you in a position to have as many options as possible to participate in different activities, right? And the more credentials you get, the more money you get or have an opportunity for an advancement. So that's why we just want to make sure that we help our families and help our students be in a position to make more money. Okay, I'm just checking on time. So next is self-advocacy, learning to advocate for oneself. It's the 3 knows: know yourself, know what you need, and know how to get it. When it comes to self-advocacy, this is a skill that teaches our customers to be assertive. You initially may not be assertive, but when it comes to speaking up for yourself, you have to learn to become assertive. And that's also important to staying informed and knowing your rights. So with MRS, ongoingly as VR counselors, we are reviewing policies, we are reviewing law and training, and then we also aid and assist our customers in putting them in positions in staying informed as well, whether it be working with job accommodations network or just participating in presentations like that we're presenting tonight. It's staying informed and knowing your rights, or beginning that process to do so. And then also finding support. That's what you're doing right now, finding support, participating in learning more about who MRS is and what we do for high school students. Problem solving, self-determination, and asking for help. My wife says this effortlessly on a daily basis. Closed mouths don't get fed. Your need cannot be met if you are afraid or ashamed to speak up for yourself. So all of these things go hand in hand, and we want to help you get there. So next we'll have a conversation about the process. So in general, there are 6 steps to vocational services: application, eligibility, the plan, which is individualized plan of employment, services, employment, and then close and exit. When it comes to pre-ETS, it's a little bit different. It's more so the 5 steps. So in general, when it comes to application, we have up to 30 days to have a customer complete an application, participate in the orientation intake meeting. Then we have up to 60 days to assess the eligibility for those services, 90 days to develop the plan. So now I'm going to pause for a moment and kind of backtrack and make it applicable to our pre-ETS customers. So for our pre-ETS customers, it still applies. If you are working with your school, an application will be provided to you along with some consent forms. You'll complete that documentation. Your eligibility is going to be a copy of your IEP or 504 plan. So that's why we need those consent forms to get that information released to us. Sometimes families are proactive and they give that information to us, and then bam, we can begin that process. Now, when it comes to pre-ETS services, our focus is that we are developing, enhancing those skills that we talked about from the 5 pillars. That's the job exploration, work-based learning experience, soft skills training, post-secondary options and training, and self-advocacy. So we are putting vendors or utilizing local agencies that we work with, such as maybe We Owe a Youth, to assist and provide those services for you. That's the focus. The only thing that will be different is your desired career industry, which I think it's called career. We're just going to call it career. I want to call it career scope so bad, but that's not it. But it's a career option that a student desires at that time. And of course, it's going to change. It may change, and typically it does change by the time they graduate high school and participate either in the workforce or participate in furthering their education. Okay, so then the services kick into play, and that is us utilizing business vendors to perform those services of vocational training towards those 5 pillars. And then it's step 5, graduation. After graduation, a conversation will be had, or prior to graduation, a conversation will be had. The student will choose one of the following options, and it's typically 3. Either they will work after high school, either they will further their education, or they will close. Okay, and the other 2 options, you can keep your case open if you desire, but some customers may be done with working with MRS and just want a break. But I do have good news for you. You can always come back to us and open up the case. And when you open up the case, you go through this process, the VR process. And because we're either working on an educational goal or an employment goal. And if it's an employment goal, we have to have you participate in the psychological evaluation to determine if we can support you. And that is assessing if you, not only sometimes you may graduate with a diploma, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're ready to continue your education, because everybody has different challenges and quirks and may need some additional support. So it just varies. So next, here on this slide, as mentioned, it talks about developing the individualized plan, the IPE. It does communicate the employment goal, or in some cases it can communicate the educational goal, and it is an agreement between you, the customer, and MRS, and it is a result of the vocational counseling process. So also in the plan, as I mentioned, we're just strictly focusing on pre-eds. It will be, the basis of it will be those 5 pillars, because that's what we're focusing on, enhancing and developing. Next, what about virtual services? So I do want to make mention to our families, virtual services are available upon request. Case in point, this evening's presentation is available through a virtual meeting. In the event, if we do have families that may not have computer access or a smartphone, please communicate with our community partners. Who are our community partners? The school that referred you to participate in tonight's presentation. So that would be your local high school. Please communicate with them, and MRS team members, we are accommodating. If there have been families that have inquired, hey, can I get access to the PowerPoint? Or hey, can I get a copy, or can I get access to the recording of the presentation so I can review it? No problem. And then there are some families that, hey, wasn't able to make tonight's session. Are there going to be any other sessions? Well, of course, we have 2 more sessions, same content being presented. One on October the 25th, the other on November the 13th. And then let's say you're not able to make either of those dates, just have a conversation with a school staff member, and we can meet at the school if need be and if necessary. Okay. So here on this slide, I am a proud member of the Western Wayne District. The purpose of this slide is to show you the zip codes and the cities that we serve in our district, as well as our fearless leaders, our site managers, and the only name, well, there's a few names that are missing, our district manager, the wonderful Benia Robinson, and the honcho, Vernita King. So shout outs to our fearless leaders in upper management. And here, this slide is just to show you just an example of, community partnerships that we have. And we have a plethora of them. They're literally hundreds, probably even close to thousands of businesses that we work with throughout the state of Michigan. that help us to perform these vocational services for our customers and families. And then also know this, granted with MRS, we don't just serve high school students. Now, the purpose of tonight's presentation, the focus is high school students and pre-eds, but we also serve beyond high school. So if you know of anyone who has any issues or challenges of maintaining employment or trying to get employment, and they may have some challenges, physical, cognitive, emotional, or visual, audio, mobility, please refer them to us. We're in the business of service and helping. So please share this information, share our contact information with them. And what I'm going to do is stop for a moment. I know there are many questions, so I'm going to go to the chat to answer some of these questions. Okay, Christina, yep, I've already answered Christina's question. Yep, the PowerPoint will be available. I did give a nice intro to the newbies. All right, and I do see, I'm going to write down your emails. Okay, next question. Okay. And for Jose, were you able to see this? Can you please share the link to this YouTube? Yes. So I will be sharing this PowerPoint, and in the PowerPoint presentation, in the slide, it does have the link. And addressing the next question. All right, here we go. Question: what are some options that a 14-year-old on a high school completion track? So when you say completion track, is that certificate of completion? I'm just waiting for the response. Let me see.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. Thank you.
Oh, okay, yeah. She's not on a diploma track. She's on a completion track. Yes.
Okay, certificate of completion. Yep. So as mentioned, so that would be the PTA counselor be working with her. So what that means is she'll still be participating in the training, and there may be a possibility for her to participate in a work-based learning experience, but it does take time to work up to that, and it just depends where your student is. If they can follow directions and be engaged and participate in those vocational trainings, then it may be a possibility that they can do a work-based learning experience. So it just depends, because each year sometimes there are different parameters. It could be an age requirement, but your students still can participate in the vocational training under the 5 pillars. Well, it may be 4 out of the 5 pillars initially.
So it's not the pre-X, but it's the other one, whatever.
Right. So not to confuse everyone, the service itself is pre-ETS, but it is kind of categorized as PTA pre-ETS, and then if you want to say pre-ETS VR, I only say pre-ETS VR is because PTA does not get an application, but they do get an assortment of paperwork that must be completed, while pre-ETS does get an application, and that's the 11th and 12th graders on the high school diploma track.
Okay.
Because we also have some COC students that complete COC and then they transition over to like Western Wayne Skills Trade Center or Livonia Transition Program, and they can still continue to be VR customers. They can still continue to be PTA customers until they complete their program, and then they say, okay, now I'm ready to work. Then they can open up a VR case.
So can you explain what is PTA versus the VR?
Right.
Because I understand pre-ETS is diploma.
Right. So the service itself is pre-employment transition services. So so view it as category A and category B. Category A is prior to the application. That is working with students that are the 9th, 10th grade in general, as well as all certificate of completion students.
Okay. That's PTA.
Yeah, PTA prior to the application, because they don't get an application. There's there's pre-ETS, quote unquote, pre-ETS documents that they complete, but they don't get what is called an MRS application.
Okay. And then that eventually leads to the VR down
Correct.
the road.
That is
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So I know initially the way it's presented or the way it sounds is a bit confusing, but the breakdown of it is essentially view it as category A pre-ETS, which is PTA, 9th, 10th graders, they can be general ed, and all grade levels that are certificate of completion.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. All right. And I just want to make sure I addressed all your questions. Let's say, who helps coordinate peer mentoring? It is it in the MRS community partner house in the high school? Can our peer mentor be the same person who is career? Yes, it can be either or. Sometimes it could be the counselor, sometimes it could be a business vendor, and then sometimes it could be an entity or organization that works with the school. So it just depends on what, who the customer is, what the situation is as well. So case in point, as I mentioned about the STEM Up program that is available for the pre-ETS students that are 11 and 12, or some of our college students that have a VR case where there are peer mentors available to them in regards to those different industries or in STEM Up. So that's just an example. But in PTA, as you mentioned, it could be a VR, it could be a MRS counselor such as myself, or a pre-ETS counselor, or anyone available in the school, or a business vendor. So it just depends on, the relationship that is developed, as well as the connection on what they are pursuing, and just honestly how enthusiastic the student and the families are when it comes to developing those relationships.
Yeah. I was just curious about what is the process for a peer mentorship? Like, is there an organized way that it's done through MRS or the partner in-house at the high schools for someone in 9th and 10th grade that's early in the high school?
I got you. So that is a little bit different from every school. So if you're looking for like peer mentors and stuff like that, there are organizations such as Big Brothers Big Sisters that are available locally. But you're asking in regards to MRS. For us, the relationships that we do have, or organizations that we do work with, STEM Up does have specific peer mentors. And then also other business vendors that we do have, they do have peer mentors. It just depends on what business vendor you're working with, because we have numerous business vendors, applicable to different areas of challenge. So it just varies, but we do have those are available depending upon what organizations you decide to work with once you work with MRS.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Let me see what else. Is MCTI a residential institution? Are you asking, is it MCTI residential institution as far as?
I think you
what
did
realm?
say there was I think you did say that there was a dormitory, and I
Yes.
figured that out. Yes, thank
Got
you.
you. Yep, it is a college dormitory setting. Students come there. It provides kind of like a college experience, but not as long. It's a lot more brief. It could be anywhere between 6 months to 2.5 years, or maybe a little bit more than that, depending upon the progression of the student and what credentials they attain while they're there.
I have more questions, but I'll leave it for the rest of them to ask questions before I ask mine.
Okay, well, give me just a moment. I'm just gonna write down these emails real quick, and then I'm gonna get back to the questions. Central.org. And then I think Miss. Okay. Okay, I'm getting your email right now.
Thank you.
And I'm trying to make sure I'm addressing all the questions Okay, here we go. What is the process? How do we apply for pre-ed services? So, great question. So if you were recommended to attend tonight's meeting by a MRS staff member, you can follow up with that staff member. If you were recommended to attend tonight's meeting by a high school staff member, you'll follow up with that high school staff member and say, hey, I attended last night's presentation. I enjoyed it. Blake was fun. He's the next. I don't know who's popular now. Jimmy Fallon. I'm joking. But you can say, hey, I'm ready to sign up. Who do I need to speak with? Who do I need to connect with to get these services going? All right. Any more questions? Yeah, I'm gonna say Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, that's funny.
Blake, are you aware of any residential? I know it's a stretch, but for
Mhm.
someone who has a lower IQ but is very social and independent, is there any residential training places like the one that you mentioned earlier, which has a requirement for 70? But
Mhm.
if it's lower than that, I just wondered if there are other places in the state or.
Th- Okay, to answer your question, there are some options in regards to it, and it just depends on what service you're looking for in particular to enhance with your child, the student. So we work with numerous business vendors that work on different things. As mentioned, Livonia Transition Program, Western Wayne Skills Trade Center they do work on those areas. They do work on those skills. They do work on some of the pillars that we may mention specifically with students, because we do recognize that there are some students that will require a lot of support and services before even being in a position to attempt to work. And then there will be some cases, some not common cases where there are challenges that are so severe that they're not going to be able to participate in competitive integrative employment. But that doesn't mean that they can't volunteer. That doesn't mean that they can't gain that work experience. But it just depends, because every case is not the same. Because this is not a situation or experience that is one size fits all. It just depends, because if there's numerous things that are going on, it just depends. But it's not to say that, like, as I mentioned, I'm not in the business of telling you, nope, we can't do that. But I am in the business of, well, okay, we might not be able to do this, but we have some other options, and this is what's available for you according to our business partners and other relationships. So that's the way I present it to my customers. I'm not going to tell you no unless it says medical documentation.
Yeah.
No, we can't do this, but we can do this and this. Do you want to do this and this? And then you might say, nope, I don't want to do this. I close my case. Okay, well, come back to us when you're ready if you want to do these two options.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Are there any more questions out there? Okay. Well, I think I have Ms. Groom's email and
Jinsey.
Ms. Jency's email, so I'll definitely follow up with you too. So thank you for the questions, and thank you for providing me with your emails, and I'll do my best to get the PowerPoint and the audios to you.
And then the two YouTube video links are in the slide set?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you for being a great audience, being patient with me, and let me entertain you and inform you at the same time. Have a blessed and great evening, and I hope that you found this presentation informative and are willing and ready to work with MRS.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day.